Good evening, it's Valerie here. It's Valerie Ling here. Hey, did you ever catch the wave of a period where people were into decluttering? Did you catch that wave where it was all about living with minimalist sort of attitudes, not collecting, not hoarding, and just living with little? Have you noticed that there is a tendency for us as human beings to want to try to downsize and simplify even in our living arrangements? Well, I want to talk to you about a similar concept in decluttering and talking about digital minimalism. Hi, I'm Valerie Ling. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm the director and founder for the Center for Effective Living, and I'm becoming increasingly concerned with the type of churn and burn that we are used to seeing in today. I want to talk to you about digital minimalism. The irony is, as I was about to launch into this live, I actually found a book that evidently I had bought some months ago called Digital Minimalism. Look it up. It's a fairly interesting topic to be thinking about. So, over the last couple of weeks, I've made some changes. I've deleted the social media apps on my phone. I have actually just been scheduling my time in terms of communicating on social media through my laptop at set times. I've also deleted quite a lot of my communication apps. They were building and got rid of WhatsApp being one of them, Facebook Messenger being the other. Um, I've also taken to having 7 paragraphs, I think, in my email auto reply. Maybe that comes across a bit rude, but here's the thing, those 7 paragraphs in my email auto reply are the types of queries and questions I get on a regular basis. And here's the thing, the great commodity at this point of time, what we barter for and what we trade for is attention. And here's the other thing, our attention span is getting shorter and shorter. And what I was finding was that the types of queries and questions that I get through all these various platforms was the type of thing that was basically trying to get my attention, because if you haven't been able to get my attention in other ways, then you're going to try some other way to get my attention. So I've put something like 7 ridiculous paragraphs into my email auto reply, essentially redirecting queries to places where you can find that information. You don't have to wait for me to respond to an email. And then what I did was I talk about putting my family on a shelf this last 2 weeks. I've just taken the time to be back out in nature, every kind of different type of nature, whether it's water, whether it's a park. We haven't quite done the mountains and the hills yet. Oh, yes, we did. I forgot about that. We did do the mountains, caught snow even, just to run a kind of cognitive experiment. What would it be like if we actually went out to real places and connected deeply with some real people? And you know what I actually found? A lot of the tension that sits in my shoulders and in my neck just kind of dissipated. It just disappeared. And every time I came back to the virtual world, I just felt like the weight was upon me. And this is what I have to say about my little behavioral experiment. Number one, there's a lot of information coming at us. And the tendency is that we overrate our ability and our expectations of ourselves to know everything, to know everything up to the minute, number one. So the cost and the burden of knowing is much greater these days. Number two, the cost of caring becomes a lot bigger as well, because as you see cryptic messages on social media, as you see shouts for help or cries for comfort and encouragement, and the vent culture that exists in social media, you cannot help but absorb it because you are a human being. The flip of that is that you desensitize yourself and become numb to that, and that ain't good either. So the cost of caring, it weighs really heavily on us when we scroll. because we also feel guilty, right? It's the whole bystander effect. There's a whole branch of social psychology devoted to getting human beings not to be bystanders, right? So the idea being that when you're flooded with information, we reference other people to see what we should do. And of course, with social media, that referencing point just goes, berserk. There's like so many messages coming at us, and so we feel guilty if we take a bystander effect. So number two, the cost of caring. Number three, the cost of deciding is huge. How do you make these decisions? How do you actually filter what is the right thing to say, what is the right thing to do, what is the right position to hold? How do you do that? So the cost of actually discerning for action, because that's what human beings want inevitably to do. We don't want to just be bystanders, have an opinion, and then do nothing. But then we get paralyzed by the cost of doing. What are we actually going to do? What decisions are we going to make as a result? And finally, the cost of time, people, the cost of time. we we want to be efficient, we want to be savvy, we want to be invested, we want things to count, but I think it's a bit of a misnomer. I think it's a simplification of our thinking that social media is a waste of time. Social media isn't just a waste of time. It's a way of connecting that has become so normal that we don't have any navigations to, like, any way to navigate which are the bits that we filter out and which are the bits that we attend. And so we attend to everything. We attend to everything. And before we know it, we've invested, minutes and hours into that. And one of the things that I've really observed is when I don't know, it's a gift. It's just a gift when I don't know. When I don't know how the world is shifting on its axis 30 seconds by 30 seconds, because every time you do the whole refresh, something new comes up. Not knowing what's just happened in the last 30 seconds is a gift. Not knowing what the emergent news is likely to be is a gift. Not being able to anticipate the weather for the next hour is a gift. Not knowing what you're doing right now, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, is a real gift. We are just not meant to function this way. And I think one of my concerns at the moment is, with COVID being the way that it is, it's kind of set us back into patterns that are unnatural, that we are continuing to be watching the minute by minute, blow by blow, reel, not just of news, but of our lives, right? Uh, this is not, folks, this ain't normal. This just ain't normal. So I would love for you, it's right now in Sydney, right now as I'm doing this Facebook Live, the day is Wednesday. Wednesday. People, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You got 4 days. Why don't you take me up on this challenge? Why don't you do the roll your eyes thing, the thing that everybody says, get off social media, blah, blah, blah. But how about we do it with a bunch of reasons and conviction that we've actually got to not know? 4 days of not knowing, and see if anything really, truly changes when you're not scrolling, when you're not refreshing. Um, I just want you to know that it's worth the experiment to try it out. You've got 4 days. Why don't you take me up on the challenge and see what happens when you actually dip your toes into not knowing? I'd love to hear how you go. See you later.